I'd like to just go over the rules for the forum. We are going to do what's called a 2-2-2 format. So each candidate will have 2 minutes for their opening statement, 2 minutes for their closing statement, and 2 minutes to answer the questions. However, most candidates don't all take up all of that time. They're welcome to use it if they would like to. And also another note, we had invited all 3 candidates to be here tonight, and around 6:25, Noelle Maddock indicated she would not be able to come tonight due to issues that have arisen at work. So I'm sad that she is not here, but I am thankful that these 2 candidates, Steve Gutierrez and Chuck King, have agreed to join us tonight. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started, and we will start in alphabetical order first. So the opening statement will start with Steve. You have 2 minutes to give your opening statement.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth. Good evening, and I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for El Dorado County for hosting and coordinating this event. A little about myself. I'm blessed. I'm married with 4 adult children and 5 wonderful grandchildren. As a resident of El Dorado Hills since 2016, I have committed myself to serving our community with integrity and dedication. My volunteer experience includes leading the transition of Promontory Homeowner Association from a developer control to residents, where I currently serve as a president of the HOA. I started the El Dorado Hills Military Veterans Group of bringing vets together to develop community ties, and I'm currently serving as a president. Additionally, I'm actively involved in our local governance. I served as a chair for the CSD's Landscape Lighting and Assessment District Citizen Advisory Committee. Hey, John's out here too. John is now the chair. But while serving on the chair, I encountered some significant mismanagement and financial concerns with our CSD. Unfortunately, my attempts of bringing these issues to the board were met with a cursory response, which to me is highlighting a need for greater accountability and transparency. I'm running to ensure that CSD operates effectively, responsibly, and prioritizing the community's best interest in every decision. With my graduate level education and extensive experience background in public administration, I served as the Mountain House president for the CSD, and with over 40 years of senior military leadership, I'm prepared to be an effective and responsible leader for our community needs. Together, we can ensure that El Dorado Hills remains a vibrant, well-managed, and a transparent community for all residents. I'm humbly asking for your support to bring strong and experienced and community-focused leadership to our CSD board. We deserve transparency, accountability, collaboration, trustworthiness. In other words, tact. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Chuck. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. First of all, thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. I do appreciate that. And I'd like to thank everybody in the audience as well as those online for taking the time to listen to my views and visions of what I think I can add to the CSD. I'm a retired law enforcement officer. I've been married to my wife, Darla, for 42 years. So obviously from a very young age, 21 years old. I've got 3 adult children and I've got 3 grandchildren. I am currently the president of the Blackstone Homeowners Association, as well as the Citizens in Support of El Dorado Hills Advocacy Group. And myself and Tom Fox were the gentleman that started the effort against the Amazon project, which would have brought about 1,200 trucks a day onto El Dorado Hills Boulevard, and we were successful in stopping that. I have also been a coach at the amateur level, Little League, and also high school, both baseball and basketball. I've been a president of a 1,200 player Little League, and I've been involved in communities since my early adulthood. The reason I'm here tonight is because my interaction with the CSD over the last year and a half have led me to see the dysfunction that currently exists, and along with the lack of transparency, the struggle for integrity and accountability, somebody has to do something to stop it, and I am one that when I see that, I'm going to jump into action. So I hope that I can earn your votes after tonight. Thank you.
Okay, Chuck, you're going to start with the first question. If elected as director, what do you perceive to be the top 3 issues facing the CSD today? Please give specific examples.
Okay, thank you. I've had this question a lot over the last 4 months, and to me it's pretty simple. The first one is the dysfunction in the board. The board is meant to be 5 individuals to work together to create decisions for the community. And it has not been that way since I have been partaking and listening to the business of CSD. There are 2 directors that are shut out. They have very little influence, and they get very little input into the decisions that are made. And that's wrong. This is not a 3-person board. It needs to be a 5-person board, and that needs to get fixed immediately. Also, the LLAD tax assessment system is broken and needs to get fixed immediately. There are serious issues with the consistency of the matrices in those, and that needs to get fixed very quickly. And the third to me would be the accounting of the CSD. There's a lot of money that we're not really sure where it's at. There's subcategories that need to be broken down where we can see exactly where money is, and it's not there right now. So we need to do a forensic audit immediately and make sure we can account for the money that you guys have paid in.
Thank you. Stephen.
Thank you, Elizabeth. As Chuck said, I was going to mess with him and say what Chuck said, and that would be my response. But to kind of amplify what he's saying is obviously when you look at what's going on now with CSD, I mean, to me, the first thing is leadership. We have leadership in crisis. He identified you can't have 3 controlling this and not really keeping their hands on the wheel. Right now we have a car that's driving that's unfortunately, it's crashing. There's decisions that are made and that are affecting our financials. There's decisions that are not made that are impacting our recreational projects. There's decisions made without the full board's awareness on policies that are affecting us in litigation. As you can see right now, we're married with lawsuits. We're going to lose several millions of dollars for the lack of inaction on a couple of the board members now. So that's a big concern. The other thing is the accountability of financial management. As I said earlier, when I was on the CAC committee, I've identified mismanagement of funds, excessive taxing, the lack of support of documentation for some of that. And that to me is what brought me forward to say, you know what, it's time to do this again. And the last thing to me, as far as the 3 top priorities, is to look at what we have as our organization staff. In order for us to be as a board leadership, we have to have staff that's in sync with us. And that's important because for us to move forward, we have to understand that in communication with our community. We have a lot of projects that are outgoing right now that are not getting done. Bass Lake Park. Unfortunately, they made a bad deal with the developer on 2020 regarding the J Park lot. They forego millions of dollars for a park that should have been provided to us. But anyway, those are some top things we have to do. That's what I see as my top 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen, you'll start with the next question. Do you support El Dorado Hills becoming a city, and should CSD funds be used to finance an effort to do so?
Thank you for that question. My experience when I was in Mountain House, I served as a president at Mountain House, in fact, during some tumultuous times of the 2008 financial crisis over there, and then able to weather it through to being a prosperous community. Mountain House is now an incorporated city, the 483rd city in the state of California as of this year. It's a long process. As far as El Dorado Hills, I support the will of the people. If the majority of the will of the people want that, that's their call. But as it stands now, CSD using funds, I don't see that as appropriate because right now we're not chartered for us to be a city. So any funds to be used would have to be the voters to go ahead and say we want to use those funds. But as it stands now, no. I would probably, if they want to move forward to be a city, then that's something that the citizens can come together with some funds to have those studies done. But as far as funds being used from CSD, no. And like I said, as far as us incorporation, number one, it's will the people. Number two, at some point in time, we might be ready for that, right? So that's why you have studies that show where we're at and seeing what the tax bases are. And then, again, it has to be what the people want, meaning the majority of the community. That's my response to incorporation of cityhood.
Thank you. Chuck, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I do not have an opinion on cityhood. And the reason I don't is because I do not know if it would be good to incorporate or if it would not. The most important thing, if you think that you want to be a city, would be to get an unbiased analysis to be able to figure that out. Do I think CSD should be funding that? No, I do not. I think CSD should be spending its money on the things that the people want that a CSD can provide. That's where they paid their taxes, and I think it should be spent there. Now, as far as CSD's role in cityhood, as I've said to other people who've asked me this question, if a group of people wanted to pay for a analysis of cityhood, so first, if somebody pays for analysis of cityhood, I'm one that believes that whoever pays for it is going to get a slanted report towards them. So what I would think is cityhood could play a part as a unbiased, neutral entity, and if there was a group that wanted to fund that study, they could donate the money to the CSD specifically for that purpose, and CSD, I think, could play a role in getting that report to determine actually whether cityhood is viable for us or not. And then, as Steve said, it's a will of the people, but you need to have the information before you can make a good decision.
Thank you. Chuck, you'll start first with this next question. If elected, what will you do to address the loss of public trust in the CSD's oversight and fiscal management?
It's a problem, without a doubt. I'm one of them. You know, all you got to do is just look a little bit and you see it. The lack of trust, to me, from my level, it comes from the lack of transparency, the lack of accountability. You just can't keep your mouth shut and not say anything when you know there's troubles. Every time I come to a meeting, I see people standing here telling them to just tell the truth, just be accountable, just let us know and let's get it figured out. But it hasn't happened yet. And I'm not speaking to all 5 of the directors when I say this. I'm speaking to the leadership. And it has to change. And the way it changes is you have to communicate, you have to be transparent, and you have to be accountable. If I'm elected to the board, it will be my endeavor as one of 5 to make sure that the dirty laundry comes out. We need to tell you the good, but we also need to tell you the bad. And you guys need to know, just like we need to know, we all need to know. And together with your input, hopefully we can straighten this out. But you build the trust by being honest, being open, and with a good track record through an extended period of time, hopefully you'll get that trust back.
Thank you. Stephen, you have 2
Can you
minutes.
repeat that question again? Thank you.
I can.
Okay.
If elected, what will you do to address the loss of public trust in the CSD's oversight and fiscal management?
I think the important thing is in rebuilding trust, like I said, I have a thing called TAC, transparency, accountability, collaboration, and trustworthiness. And these are just words, but if you have to understand what these words mean, because it's through actions that prove these words. And so it goes back to looking at our position of CSD. Look at the actions that caused me and Chuck to be here. I mean, we're in our retirement state, and we didn't have this within our bandwidth, but we're here because we love our community, and we want to take care of our community, and we want to join the board of 2 members that are sitting out here that care about this community. And so to bring back the confidence and trust is one is we have to show transparency. We got to be when we're conducting any type of business, it has to be the business of the people, not hidden in the doors. We both run HOAs. I've been on boards. I don't like to excessively use closed sessions when I don't have to. I want to be transparent so the public sees what we're deciding, so you feel that you're part of that decision. We're collaborating with that. You're part of it. You're buying into it. And the next thing is you got to do what you say, follow through. And this is a problem we have. We have projects that they're not following through. You have Bass Lake Park it's just kind of left in the vortex. We don't know what they're going to do. They need so much money for it. The other thing is when you have the Lassick Trust with the former general manager that got fired, and they knew there was issues. We brought it up to them, but certain board members turned a blind eye to it. And so this has caused damage in relationships. So we got to rebuild that. And so it goes back in closing to reestablish that trust is to be real and to have a transparency and involve inclusiveness of the folks of El Dorado Hills. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen, you'll start with this question. 3 lighting and landscaping districts are voting to end their tax assessment, which will require CSD to use general fund monies to maintain parks or other amenities in those neighborhoods. How should CSD respond if the measures pass?
Okay, thank you. I almost have to recuse myself on this one because I'm one of those repealing it, LLD 22. On my situation, I can simply tell you this. As a promontory HOA president, and as far as the taxpayers over 928 units, we've paid over millions and tens of millions of dollars that I think was excessive over the years because the way the formation documents for these LLDs were set. They're flawed and they have problems, and they know they have problems. Unfortunately, some of the staff have excessively charged on these. For example, Promontory Community Park is a community park, meaning it should be a general funded park, not a special benefit park where you put the bill on the taxpayer homeowners. That park was designed to be generally funded by property taxes. They generate hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars over the years of rental fees. They don't need to tax the 928 units to have to support that promontory park. It's a community park. Honestly, I've looked at the financials, and as far as the LLDs, if we can fix the problem of the excessive methodology that they use for overtaxing, for administrative overhead, salary and benefits, I think that's going to be an issue that will resolve itself. And number one is for over 45% of that of every dollar of LLD collected is fluff money. It's going to administrative, it's going to professional services. So you may get 50, maybe 60 cents in a dollar towards that part. So I think as far as these measures go through, I don't see there's going to be an impact. I think certainly it's going to cause change. Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I will admit to being one of those 3 as well. Blackstone has a ballot or has an initiative on, or measure on the ballot as well, Measure R. And the reason we do is not because we don't want to pay our taxes. It's not because we think our taxes are too high. It's not because we think they're unfair. What they are is illegitimate. When we started having these issues with the LLAD and we started looking, one of the first things I did is I asked for the original documents that prove that an assessment district should be formed. Basically what it comes down to is if the taxes you're getting already aren't enough to cover the maintenance and development of the park, that they can give you an assessment on that. So to do that, they have to be able to justify it, and they do that by going through California Code of Regulations 61 to 120 through 125. And that gives them a clear process for which they must calculate what they're doing to be able to create this assessment district. They cannot find those documents. They do not know if they even ever existed. So the mere fact that there's an LLA district at Blackstone may just be complete bogus. And I'll also look back at Heritage as well. For Blackstone, we're looking about $150 a year for taxes. Heritage is about $350. The reason is because they have pickleball courts and bocce ball courts and tennis courts right outside their gate. They're paying for those, but they have every one of those amenities inside their gate. How is it fair that they should do that when the people from Cameron Park, Folsom, and such areas are coming to use that? The system is broken, it needs to be fixed, and that is why we filed for the repeal, so that we can get their attention, so we can get them to reorganize the LLADs.
Thank you. Chuck, you'll take this one first. How do you envision fostering a collaborative relationship with the county?
That's an easy one. It's an effort. You have to make an effort. As a HOA president, as the president of Citizen Support of El Dorado Hills, I've done that, and it's not hard. You treat them with respect, you have good conversations, you try to come up with solutions that work for both your side and their side. When we were going through Amazon, which there's people in the room here who worked hard on Amazon with us, but myself and Tom Fox took it upon ourselves, because of the type of person we are, to have one-on-one meetings, because that's where we truly felt where you would get the effective communication that might make a difference. So creating those relationships, the feedback that we got was nobody ever does it this way. This is the kind of communication we need to be able to work together. And that's one of the big reasons why I went past Citizen Support of El Dorado Hills to running for the CSD, because I believe those relationships have to happen if you want to move forward.
Thank you. Stephen?
Thank you, Elizabeth. Kind of to amplify what Chuck's saying, honestly, I've worked with the county since I've been the president of the Promontory Association, especially with the planning department, because I have a lot of custom builds up in the Promontory. And I can tell you, I mean, you know, there's some hiccups, but what I've learned is through relationships, and I've learned that through my 40 years of life in the military and working in public service. It's all about relationships, and you establish a working relationship with folks, and once you do that, everything comes in place. And so as far as with the county, they're no different than any other county I've worked with. It's establishing relationships and an open door with them. And the same thing with CSD. I know there's been some maladaptive relationships in the past, and we got to repatch that up. That's just one of the other things that we have on our bucket list we have to do, besides developing the confidence of the public, is reestablish and repatriate those relationships with builders and with the county. Because at the end of the day, we have to work as a committee, as a team, if we want to move forward, and we can do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen, you'll start with this question. What is your vision for the old golf course land? Should the CSD purchase the second half of it?
So with the golf course, this is where me and Chuck kind of vary a little bit on that one. From the beginning of the onset of that thing, I was kind of a stinkler about having the former general manager negotiate that. Number one, he's an unlicensed realtor to negotiate that, and when he was negotiating that deal, he was under an investigation for misconduct and ethical issues, and yet certain board members allowed him to go ahead and be the lead for that thing. At any rate, they were trying to follow what the master plan says. I read the master park plan, the last one, and it did mention about open space. So they did try to take that, move forward with that. But so here we are with, 55 acres, $10 million. On the second piece, it's problematic because one is they need to remove that road that goes through that area. If they don't, I'm not a golf expert, so I don't know. Can they refigure that out and have golfing? I don't know. But it ties into the survey of what the public wants. Again, I'm just going to go back of what we paid for a survey. We spent about $40,000, $50,000 to get a community-based wide survey, so we just need to follow that. There's a sweet spot. There's some that want a golf course, aquatic center, and open space. So what we need to do is just kind of find that sweet spot for all three. So do we acquire the second parcel? Again, that's just kind of a problematic question for me because it all depends on that road and then what's that sweet spot in regards to the amenities that we want to put on there. But we have to be, again, transparent and inclusive to all the public of what they want. And so that's why we have that survey done. So that's my response to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Yes, I do think that we should buy the property. I think without buying the property, the option of a golf course is not possible. With the 61 acres I think we have now, it's not big enough for a golf course. I've done a lot of work on this project since the CSD bought it, and there are avenues there to make it a positive cash flow entity for CSD, I do believe. There's a lot of excitement for it, and I think it can work. But the best thing about it, honestly, is it can be more than just a golf course. My vision, as you asked, it has hiking trails and it has biking trails around it. It has interconnectivity with other trails. Hopefully that gets us to where we get up towards Bass Lake with the same type of trail system. And it also gives us an opportunity to create some of the other amenities that are in that list on that same piece of property if we do have the full 100 acres. I agree with Steve about the road. The road is a major problem. It would take a pretty good segment out of it, and it would be a much more beneficial piece of property for us without that road.
Okay, Chuck, you'll start with this next question. The Bass Lake Regional Park project seems to be grandiose, very expensive, and unattainable at present, and may result in a poor return on taxpayer investment. As director, if elected, what would your recommendation today be as the project's future, and how will the CSD fund this $100 million project and its future costs?
I thought about that a lot, especially lately, especially as I'm reviewing the master plan once again. And I don't see sports fields at Bass Lake. I really don't. I think it takes away from what Bass Lake can be. To me, Bass Lake needs to be open space. I think it needs to be mastered as open space and a community park. And I think it needs to be what the people that are asking for open space really want. And I think we can do that for a whole lot less money. And we need to bring the sports fields closer to town, I think, if we get that opportunity to where they can utilize the services that El Dorado Hills Town Center and such have for them.
Thank you. Stephen?
Thank you, Elizabeth. So Bass Lake, that's kind of a sore topic there because it ties into J Light Park, which was, that should have been a community park paid for by Parker Development. It was part of the 92, it was part of the agreement. And the only two signatories that are designing that development agreement was the county and Parker Development. And for today, that's what we own, because all the people in Serrano have paid into a Malo Rouge for that park, and they don't have a community park. And that's what it should have been. It should have been, we should have been insisted that the developer put in a community park. He was obligated to put a community park like Promontory. And if you look at the Nexus study, the Nexus study is basically is a professional service that CSD hires to give you a cost on building parks. And back then, when they should have built that park without giving them excuses, kicking the can down the road, when they should have provided that park, it would have cost about $3 million. Fast forward to 2020 or 2021, you're looking at probably over $1 million, and it's over over a 12-acre park. So you're looking at about $14-15 million at minimum. And so we just gave it away to them for $3.5 million, which we haven't seen yet, for Bass Lake Park, which they have a grandiose $100 million. They're not going to get the bonds for that. People are not going to vote for it. So here we are stuck with it. I think we have a second bite of the apple to compel the developer to build that community park like a Promontory Park. Because think about it, the people that live in Serrano, they've been paying for years and years into that CFD. They owe it to them. But if not, we own it because we took it on. So like Chuck said, open space and build a community park for Serrano. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen, you'll start with this next question. Share with us the top 2 priority issues you want to tackle in your first 100 days if elected.
So right off the bat, coming in as a prior military, I retired as a colonel. One of the things when I jump into a command, the first thing to do is get a command assessment of what's going on. And so right off the bat, there's leadership issues. So one is we have to get the board synced up, and I think 2 of the board members are sitting here today to be great teammates to work to make things happen. If me and Chuck get on there, I think we're going to have a dream team. And then the next thing is we just have to get our staff synced up. We got to assess whether our staff is capable of doing what they're doing. I know our acting general manager, he's overwhelmed right now. So we need to make sure that we reset on our staff as well as our board, and we sync up of what we want to do. The master plan is coming up. Master plan is very paramount to us because it's like the county's general plan. That's kind of a roadmap that helps us prioritize, and that helps us estimate costs. Our Nexus study is coming up. So those are two important documents coming up. So in summary, coming up here is we as the board members, if we all sync up, we have to identify the weaknesses in our staff. Let's get them plussed up so our team's ready to play ball. And then we got to get our playbooks, which is the master plan as well as the Nexus study. That's going to be a full play for the next 120 days. Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck, you have 2
I'm
minutes.
not going to go too far away from him. We definitely, without a doubt, first thing that has to happen is we have to get a board functioning as one. We need 5 people on the same page working together to try to get this CSD back on track. That's number 1. Second, forensic audit. We have to know what we have and what we don't have, and we have to be able to, how do I say this nicely, we need to get the bones out of the closet and figure out exactly what we have to do to repair what's wrong. And we need to tell you guys about it too. But the third is, I want to get to the bottom of these lawsuits. We've got lawsuits with Heritage Park. We've got a lawsuit with the county. We need to end those as quickly as we possibly can in an amicable way. What I know about both of those lawsuits, I just don't understand them. I don't get why we are where we are, and I think reasonable people can come together and find a way to work this out. They are spending a ton of money on lawyers to dance around issues that look to me like personal issues, and it needs to stop.
Thank you. You'll start with this next question. How do you plan to improve communication with the community and rebuild trust?
Well, rebuilding trust is telling somebody something and then following through with it. And if you can't follow through with it, communicate that you can't and why, and then give them a new plan. And that's what I do at Blackstone. We have, in fact, our motto this year is communication. We've done our best to try to improve our communication. We have a website that we put in at the beginning of the year with calendars and bulletins, and we fill it with everything we possibly can. We also send emails out as reminders for anything that's going on. Like right now, we're going through a resurfacing process, and every day we are reminding them to the point where ad nauseum probably. They're probably tired of seeing it, but we're telling them what roads are going to be closed the next day and how to get around them. So you have to have those two, but we also have town halls on a fairly frequent basis in addition to our open sessions. We just invite the people in, here are the things that's going on right now. You tell us what you want to hear, and we talk about it, and we try to, number one, take their suggestions and whatever they have to add to it, and then try to incorporate that into how we move forward. But communication is, it's a full-time job, but I tell you what, Blackstone is a piece of cake as a president because we have good communication.
Thank you. Stephen.
Thank you. So like Chuck, as a president of Promontory, I've struggled with, like right now we're involved with changing our bylaws. So it takes 2/3 vote. That means I need several hundred folks to vote on this. And so one of the challenges that I learned serving is that how do you message? And message is so important. I sit down with my community manager and say, okay, how are we going to get our message out there to our homeowners? So you have to look at the different modalities, right? So what's the main thing that most people are doing today to communicate with them is unfortunate. This little thing here, right? So I kind of said, okay, let's look at the tools that we have on the table to communicate messaging for folks. So we look at the social media platforms that we can reach out, email blasts, and then as far as I have a news magazine that reaches out, and we have interest stories, because if you just kind of say things and report out, folks start to get bored with that. So you have to have interesting things that are going to entice them to look at that. And then the other thing is town hall importance of meetings as well, because folks are here. But because I understand there's folks that can't make these meetings. Zoom is another important thing of technology. I know that CSD for a while was doing Zoom meetings for the subcommittees, and those were really important. Zoom is another thing. We just have to understand it as a society today, especially after COVID-19, that remote technology we have to use for messaging. But most importantly that I'm thinking right now is that the messaging has to be factual and it has to be transparent to the folks that they understand what it is. Just not garbage that goes in. Garbage goes out, garbage comes back. We have to put vital, good information. So anyway, that's my kind of battle plan for moving forward for messaging communications.
Thank you. Okay, the next question, we'll start with Stephen. Parker Development has had too close of a relationship within the county for many decades. Parker has taken many shortcuts. Would you, as the CSD director, stand up for the county or Parker?
Well, let me just simply say this. If I was a CSD director, I stand up for my people of El Dorado Hills. Simple as that. That's my answer.
Thank you. Chuck?
Could you please re-answer? I was writing down some notes from what we were just discussing.
Sure. Parker Development has had too close of a relationship with the county for many decades. Parker has taken many shortcuts. Would you, as a CSD director, stand up to the county and to Parker?
Yes, absolutely. I've had conversations actually recently about Marble Valley, but they've been ongoing as a result of East Ridge and the UC Davis project supposed to be going on in White Rock, about making the developers pay for the infrastructure before the construction begins on their money-making processes. The county is way too soft on them on all that, and I have had individual conversations with each of the supervisors about doing just that, because we get into this situation where they promise to pay down the road, but if they're going to build 500 houses and that's a milestone to where they do something, they stop at 499 and they never have to do it. And that is something that Mr. Parker appears to be pretty famous for. So yes, we need to be stringent with both the county and the developers as far as making sure they pay their fair share, and they need to be doing it up front.
Thank you. Chuck, you'll start with this next question. I actually have a whole bunch of questions I'm going to try to combine here, and it relates to the leadership concerns that have been raised by the voters in this room. There's been discussion about it, but can you please give some specific examples about how you will provide the cohesion and improve the leadership at the CSD?
I look at it like a sports team. Everybody has to work together. And again, it starts with communication. That's a word we've used several times tonight, and it's because it's an important word. If you're not listening, you're not hearing what people are saying. If people aren't saying it, you need to figure out why they're not saying it. But communication, vetting people's issues, hearing the concerns of 5 people or the ideas of 5 people. Once you bring those 5 people together, if they understand that what they're saying is being heard and accepted as a reasonable offering, then hopefully at that point you can get them to start working together to try to find ways to solutions. But the way things are right now, it's just not happening. You've got 3 people that basically work as a 3-person board, and the offerings of other 2 directors just aren't even consideration. And I know how they feel. And it would be pretty disappointing to be in a situation like that, to go through the effort to be elected and to represent the people, and then be shut out the way they're shut out, and then have to answer the questions that the people ask because I elected you, why aren't you doing this? It starts with communication. You have to be able to work together and work through those things. The first meeting might be a big argument session, but everybody needs to say what the issue is, and we need to find a way to get through those and understand that the goal is to work together to make the CSD a better place.
Thank you. Stephen?
Thank you, Elizabeth. Can you repeat that question? I just want to make sure I characterize it right before I respond to it.
Absolutely. I'm combining a few questions, but they're related to the leadership concerns that the voters in this room have raised, and we're looking for specific examples about how to improve the cohesion in the group with specific examples.
Okay, so when we say leadership, so we're looking at both CSD staff, senior leadership, and then as far as the board leadership. So to address, to discuss that, I mean, it's evident there's leadership in crisis. When you have parks that are not getting built, you have parks, it's like having a freeway that's halfway done and we don't know what to do. Well, it goes back to what Chuck says, communication and an understanding and be able to be on the same page. Think about if you ever played sports, right, or even watched sports. Take a football team or the World Series right now as they're playing. Everybody understands their position and part. But if you group together and you don't pay attention of what the play is and you go out and do your own thing, what happens? It gets dysfunctional. And this is what's happening. And so I think with us, as like I said earlier, I use the word dream team. I believe me and Chuck, and there's two board directors sitting in here now, I think that team right here, we can move forward and be that strong caveat that needs to move forward to build that confidence and leadership. And to that in itself is going to reestablish that trust among the public. Because right now, leadership that I've been involved in the last 40 years of leadership, you have to lead by example, right? So if you say something, mean something, do something. And if I expect staff to do something or my colleagues, I got to be up front and do the same thing, lean forward in the foxhole race to tell my soldiers. And so leadership to me is important. So you have to lead by example and understand where the problem is and understand with realistic expectations of how we're going to get there. And don't have delusions of grandeur on things that are not going to happen. But strong leadership by lead by example. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chuck, you answered that one, so you're going to actually, I'm sorry, Stephen, you'll start with this one. Will you replace the current lawyer on day one?
Wow.
Well, we just don't hold punches here, do we?
Who asked that question?
Yeah. So to get back is, the first thing is, like I said, you reset on a team, right? So you go out and you rally your team together, and we understand what's weak, what's strong. And if I go back and experience and look and see if the council is not providing due diligence for us, then absolutely I'm going to replace him immediately because he's paramount. Number one is there have been some behavior and actions that CSD's had, and they should have been advised by their attorney that they were outside their lane. And so if I'm paying somebody a significant amount of money and they're not providing that type of legal technicality of keeping us in the lane, then we may have to reconsider that. But it's like anything else, when you pick a team, you're going to change players. It's that simple. So my answer to you is, if I'm up here and I have to pick team, I'm going to be probably changing some players. At least my recommendation to the board. Remember, I can't do one thing, I'm 1/5. But as a team, we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck?
Thank you. I don't know what the contract status is of the attorney, and obviously that would play into that, but it's also need to remind everybody that it's not a me question, it's an us question. That's a 5-person decision as to what you do with the attorney. What I can tell you is when I sit out where you are and I listen, and some of the things I've heard from him, I don't trust him. I don't want his advice. I don't know that I could trust it if I was up here. So I think you can deduce from that what you think, what my decision would be if I were the final vote.
Thank you. Okay, this next question will start with you, Chuck. Do you carry a concealed weapon? And if so, will you promise never to bring a gun to a CSD meeting?
I'm not going to answer the first part because that is nobody in here's business. It's concealed for a reason. But I do have a concealed weapons permit as a retired law enforcement officer. And yes, I promise never to bring one into a CSD building or to around kids, period.
Thank you. Stephen?
Ditto.
Wonderful. Okay, Stephen, you'll start with the next question. We have time for about maybe 1 or 2 more questions before we'll move to closing statements. So this next question starts with Stephen. Who are your top 3 campaign contributors?
Steve Gutierrez, Steve Gutierrez, Steve Gutierrez.
Thank you. Chuck?
Citizens in Support of El Dorado Hills, a gentleman out of the Bay Area who he has a Bay Area phone number, but I have no idea what his name even is at this point. I think his last name is Alvarez, but I've never met the man. Obviously, somebody that looked at my website and donated, I think, $50. And my third one would be Chamber of Commerce Business and Commerce Political Action Committee. I'm sorry, that is wrong. El Dorado County Association of Realtors. I didn't get any money from Chamber of Commerce Business and Commerce Political Action Committee. El Dorado County Association of Realtors is $500.
Okay, thank you. And this is our last question, and we'll start with Chuck. Have you negotiated anything with Parker Development before? And combo question, will you negotiate with Parker by yourself and behind closed doors, or what will be your approach?
I have never negotiated anything with Bill Parker whatsoever. I've had 1 2-hour meeting with Kirk Bone and Andrea Parker as it relates to the Central El Dorado Hills Park land, asking them to sell the land to CSD, and that was, I think, about last April or May, somewhere in there. That's the only conversation I've ever had with them. The only time I'm going to negotiate with Mr. Parker is when the board asks me to do that and tasks me with that. I have no favoritism towards him or any other developer, but they are part of what goes on in this community, and they need to be treated as human beings and business people, and we do need to negotiate with them in good faith and treat them as the people that they are in our community. They're obviously leaders in our community. A lot of people don't like them for a lot of different reasons. I try not to hold those things against people. There's a lot of times the stuff that you hear, the rumors you hear, aren't true. I try to deal with people based on the interaction I have with them and go from there.
Thank you. Stephen?
My response is really simple and short, no.
Thank you. Well, with that, we're going to move to closing statements. And Chuck, you're going to go first. You have 2 minutes to make your closing statement.
Thank you. I want to go back, as you discussed earlier, that if we had something we wanted to readdress, that we could do it in our closing statement. When we were talking about communication, there was 2 more things that I wanted to address as far as avenues to communication with the citizens. One of the other ways we do it is we have gatherings, and when we have these gatherings, whether it's a Christmas event or like right now we're going through Halloween, we make sure as many of our board members that can be there are there. We mingle with the people, and that gives us great opportunity to talk about specific issues, whatever it is that they want to talk about. We've been having Halloween we had Halloween on Friday and Saturday night. We've had 2,300 people from our community show up to those, and we've got another one tomorrow night. And that gives me a ton of opportunity to talk to the people about everything that's going on. So that's one thing. So obviously there's a whole lot of stuff that goes on with CSD. Board members need to go to those to be able to get the pulse of the people, so to speak. The other is the CSD website. I'm sorry, I know the people try hard. I can't find anything in it. It's the hardest site in the world for me to get through, and maybe it's just me, but in my eyes it needs to be re-engineered completely. I want to thank you all for listening. I know we've talked about a lot of negative stuff in here, but I want to assure you that we are on the way up. Please vote for Steve and I. Let us and Steve and Heidi and Mike forward the future. I promise you my efforts are going to be for transparency, integrity, and accountability. I did that for 30 years in law enforcement, and it doesn't change now. We love this community, and I want to be a part of it and be able to enjoy it for a long time.
Thank you. Stephen, you can make your closing remarks. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Elizabeth. First of all, I want to thank the League of Women Voters of El Dorado County for hosting this venue. We appreciate it. It's an important forum. And then all of you out there not falling asleep on me, I appreciate that. I get a hoo out of you, right? There you go. As an Army, we say hoo. Wake you all up. Again, in closing, I'm running for the El Dorado Hills Community Service Board, and because I believe in our future and our community services that reflect the value of transparency, accountability, and general commitment. And the reason why I'm reading this out, because I sincerely believe those words. I really believe in the word transparency and accountability. I really do. And that's why we're here. And I'm thinking it's just not going to take all 5 of us, board members, or 4 of us, or whatever it's going to be that's going to work as a team. It's going to take all of us, a community. It's going to take over 19,000 rooftops, close to 40,000 folks. It's going to take all of us. This is our community. And so, my hope is that we're going to light you folks up to get re-engaged back in this community, because this is a place that I've decided to pitch tent after serving 36 years in the military. This is a retirement home for me. I don't want to move anymore. This is it. This is my home. And so I think together we can make this place the best place that's in this country. But it's going to take all of us, everybody sitting out there and people that live in this community. We'll work as a team. We'll have hiccups, but we'll get through them. We'll get back up there and we'll run the ball. Anyway, again, thank you, all of you. And just remember the one word, TAC. Transparency, accountability, collaboration, and trustworthiness. That's important. Just remember TAC. That's us. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both of the candidates. Now we can applaud.
All right.
Thank you again for being here, and to the voters here today, thank you. We have recorded this evening's forum. It'll be available in the next day or 2 on YouTube and Facebook. We encourage you to share it with your friends. And also, as a reminder, for more information, visit vote411.org. And also, don't forget to sign your ballot envelope for your vote to count. Thank you very much.
Thank you.